It was a stormy evening in the heart of Rainsford City when Detective Amelia Lane arrived at the scene of the crime. The old library, now cordoned off by yellow tape, loomed ominously in the downpour. Inside lay the victim, a renowned therapist named Dr. Evelyn Hart, known for her groundbreaking work in emotional healing. The room was eerily tidy, save for a single overturned chair and a shattered picture frame on the floor. What made the case unique, however, wasn't the method of the murder, but the apparent emotional chaos it left behind. The atmosphere felt heavy, as if the very walls mourned the loss. Amelia wasn't an ordinary detective. She had a rare gift. She could sense emotions embedded in spaces and objects, like echoes of feelings left behind. As she walked into the room, a surge of grief hit her, almost knocking her off balance. It wasn't just sorrow. It was layered with guilt and anger, emotions so intense they seemed to pulse through the air. She steadied herself, taking a deep breath, and began her silent investigation. The picture frame caught her eye. It had once held a photo of Dr. Hart and a younger woman, both smiling warmly. Amelia picked it up carefully, letting her fingers brush against the shards of glass. A wave of envy coursed through her. Someone had been jealous of the bond in this photograph. She placed it down and turned her attention to the bookshelf. A single book, The Art of Letting Go, was pulled halfway out, its pages dog-eared and worn. Touching it, Amelia felt a sharp pang of betrayal. The next morning, Amelia visited Dr. Hart's assistant, Liam, a quiet man with kind eyes. He spoke of how Dr. Hart had recently taken on a client who had become uncomfortably attached to her. She said this person was struggling with abandonment issues, Liam explained, his voice tinged with worry. But she never told me their name. Amelia's investigation led her to interview several clients, including the young woman from the photograph. Her name was Clara, a former patient of Dr. Hart who credited her with saving her life. Clara seemed genuine, her grief palpable, but Amelia couldn't shake the memory of that envy she'd felt. Was it Clara's? Or had it belonged to someone else in Dr. Hart's life? As Amelia pieced together the fragments of emotions and clues, she discovered a startling truth. The killer wasn't just someone who envied Dr. Hart's relationships, but someone who felt betrayed by her methods. The emotional turmoil she'd sensed in the library wasn't just the aftermath of a crime, it was the motive. The perpetrator, a man named Victor, had been a client whose deep-seated fears and insecurities had spiraled into obsession. Dr. Hart's refusal to treat him further had shattered his fragile psyche, leaving him convinced she'd abandoned him, just like everyone else in his life. In the final confrontation, Amelia found Victor in an abandoned park, holding one of Dr. Hart's books tightly to his chest. His emotions were a hurricane, rage, sorrow, and regret swirling together. Instead of drawing her weapon, Amelia spoke to him, using her gift to connect. She echoed his pain back to him, but guided it toward understanding. It wasn't an arrest made with force, but with empathy, as Victor collapsed in tears, confessing everything. The case was closed, but Amelia knew the true challenge wasn't catching the killer. It was understanding the depths of human emotion that drove such acts. In a world driven by logic and evidence, her ability to solve crimes by feeling rather than thinking was her greatest asset and burden. And in that stormy city, where shadows and feelings often intertwined, Amelia Lane was the bridge between the two.